Ellie's hands shook so hard the dirt slipped through her fingers before she could throw it on the coffin. 3 months a wife. Now this. The whole town watched her, waiting for her to fall down crying like a proper widow should. Instead, she bent down, picked up a fistful of dirt with both hands, and threw it hard onto Tom's coffin like she was angry at it. A woman near the grave gasped. Someone else whispered, "That poor girl has gone strange with grief." Ellie did not cry. She turned around, wiped her hands on her black skirt, and walked straight back to her empty house, leaving the mourners standing there staring after her. That evening, old Silas Coombs knocked on her door. He found her already scrubbing her only good pot, sleeves pushed up, like there was work to be done and no time to waste on tears. "Ma'am," he said, turning his hat in his hands, "I heard you make the finest biscuits in the county." Ellie did not stop scrubbing. "I do. We need a cook. Cattle drive all the way to Kansas, pays $10 a day." Now Ellie stopped. She looked at him hard. A woman alone with a dozen rough cowboys for months. "Yes, ma'am." Ellie set the pot down slow. Then she said the words that made Silas's mouth fall open. "I'll take it. When do we leave?" Silas stared at her like she'd grown a second head. A widow, 20 years old, 3 days after burying her husband, ready to ride into the wild with strange men. Word spread through town fast. Some folks called her brave. Most called her foolish or worse. Ellie did not care what they called her. She packed her flour sack that same night, her hands finally steady again, while somewhere across town, a tall, quiet man named Jacob Reyes smiled to himself when he heard the news, for he had asked around town for her by name, and she did not yet know why the storm hit fast, turning the sky the color of a bruise. Ellie fought to tie down her wagon cover as wind ripped it from her hands again and again. Then she heard hooves pounding hard through the rain, and a horse skidded to a stop right beside her. Jacob swung down before the horse had even stopped moving. "Get inside," he shouted over the wind. "Now." "The herd needs you more than I do," she shouted back. "You didn't need me to come back," he said, grabbing the wagon cover from her hands and tying it fast with 3 quick pulls. "But I came anyway." Then he was gone again, riding hard into the storm toward the frightened cattle, leaving Ellie standing there, soaked and staring after him. That night, once the storm passed and the herd was calm again, spirits in camp sat low. 2 calves had drowned crossing the swollen creek. The men ate in silence, tired and sad. Ellie decided something bold. She dug out her last precious sugar, saved for weeks, and baked a dried apple pie in the Dutch oven, right there over the fire, working fast before the coals died. When she carried it to the men, young Charlie's eyes went wide. "Ma'am, you didn't have to do that." "Eat," was all Ellie said. The men ate slow, savoring every bite like it was Christmas dinner. Some of them even smiled for the first time in days. Later, after the others had gone to their bedrolls, Jacob came to her wagon, hat in his hands. "That pie," he said quietly, "it was a kindness, the men needed it." "It was only apples and flour," Ellie said. Jacob looked at her steady, his voice low. "No, it was more than that." He said nothing further. He turned and walked into the dark toward his bedroll, leaving Ellie standing by her dying fire, watching him go, her heart doing something strange and unfamiliar inside her chest. Ellie could not sleep. Something felt wrong in the dark that night. She left her wagon quiet as a cat and found Jacob sitting alone by the last coals of the fire, rifle across his knees, eyes fixed on the ridge where riders had been watching them for 2 days now. "You should be resting," she said. "So should you," he answered, but he moved over, making room, and she sat down beside him. For a long while neither spoke. Then Jacob broke the silence, his voice careful, like each word cost him something. "I knew your husband a little," he said. "Tom, good man. I was sorry to hear of his passing." Ellie's throat went tight. "Thank you." Jacob stared into the fire. "I want you to know something. I didn't ask for you to cook this drive only for your biscuits, though they are fine biscuits." Ellie's heart began pounding hard and fast. Then why? Jacob was quiet a moment too long. Then he said it plain. I remembered you, from town, before Tom passed. I never spoke to you then, you being married and all. Wasn't my place. But I remembered your face at a church supper and I never forgot it. Ellie stared at him, stunned, the fire crackling between them. You remembered me, all this time? I did, Jacob said. And when I heard you were widowed and needing work, I told myself hearing a good cook was only good sense. That wasn't the whole truth, though. I've carried this a long while now, and I figured it was time I said it plain, even if you send me away for it. The night bird called somewhere in the dark. Ellie said nothing for a long moment, her mind racing between grief and something else, something new and frightening. I'm not asking anything of you, Jacob added quickly, watching her face. You're still grieving, I know that. I only wanted you knowing the truth since we've a long trail yet ahead of us. Ellie looked at him, this careful man who had ridden through storms just to tie down her wagon. I don't know my own heart yet, Jacob, she said slowly. But your words didn't fall on stone. They didn't. The stockyard noise hit Ellie like a wall, bawling cattle, shouting men, whistles from the trains, iron wheels screeching on tracks. 800 miles behind her now, and here she stood, staring at empty pens where the herd used to be. Young Charlie ran up first, grabbing her hand tight. Ma'am, I'll never forget your cooking. Never. Ellie squeezed his hand back, her throat too tight to speak much. Silas Coombs came next, shaking her hand hard. Ranch owner will want you again next spring if you're willing. Ellie nodded, but her eyes kept drifting toward the empty chuck wagon and toward the man who wasn't there yet. Then Jacob appeared through the crowd, his pay heavy in his pocket, his trail boss duties finally done. He stopped in front of her and turned his hat over in his hands, same as always. I'm heading back to Texas soon, he said. Thought I'd buy land near the Red River, run cattle of my own this time. Ellie waited, watching him struggle for words. I don't want to rush your grief, Jacob said finally, his voice rough. But I'd be glad, mighty glad, if you'd think on coming with me, not as my cook only. He paused, and the whole noisy stockyard seemed to go quiet around them. As my wife, whenever your heart says yes, and if that day never comes, I'll see you safely wherever you wish instead. Ellie's breath caught. She thought of the fresh grave, the shaking hands, the fistful of dirt thrown in anger months before. That girl felt far away now, like someone from an old story. I can't promise my heart is fully mended, she said slowly. But it's alive again, Jacob, more alive than it's been in a long while. Jacob's careful face broke into a real smile, wide and unguarded. Then that's a beginning. A beginning, Ellie repeated, and for the first time since Tom's death she smiled back, full and true. Around them, cattle bawled, trains whistled, and two people who had crossed 800 miles of danger stood still together, finally, truly home.